All right, welcome back to the Soul Unleashed podcast. I'm, of course, Mike Nicholas, and I'm really happy to have as my guest today Dr. Sharnael. Dr. Sharnael, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself to my listeners. And we cover everything on here from the Bible and stuff that relates to spiritual things like that, but also to what I used to think was crazy stuff, uh, mystics and mediums and stuff we'll talk about today. So I've asked Dr. Sharnael to join us because I recently read her book, The Science of Miracles, and it really tied in a lot with what I've been reading. Oh, there it is. Perfect. Thank you. And I'll also ask you, Dr. Chanel, or I'll put that information in our show notes so that my listeners can get it. But I found it fascinating and tied in very much with what I've learned and studied about manifestation, and another book called Zero Limits that I've been reading, and it's been terrific. So, Dr. Chanel, please, if you would, however you care to introduce yourself, it's all yours.
Well, thank you, Mike. And again, thank you for having a platform like this because your voice, your work, your service, what you guys are doing, anything that we can get to the tipping point of like positivity on this planet, literally for the collective. You're bringing your space, your energy, your peace to the puzzle of everyone having that forward motion of love instead of the emotion anti-love. And of course, we have all the social engineering out there for platforms and media, and that may not be as harmonious and or fun or easy. And so all the work that you do and everything, so a lot of people do these podcasts and then they just give up because they feel like they're alone and no one's watching. And you have quite an audience of people who, this is the time and space for us to really create something beautiful and positive on this planet. And thank you for your doing that.
Thank you. It's kind of you.
Yes. Okay. So me, my background, I did ministry and service, which I still believe I'm in ministry service now. But more on I guess, within the limits of religion at the time, that was my path. I did a lot of conference speaking, teaching, in buildings and churches and retreats and stadiums and colleges and classrooms and lots of fun
Were
writing
you
books.
were you involved in any specific kind of religion, like any specific faith?
Yeah, I started out super I guess my grandparents were Lutheran. I never really dabbled into that too much. I mean, although I went a couple times with them as kids, like Easter,
Mhm.
whatever, that was kind of a thing. And then, but when I moved to the Bible Belt in, I think I was 13, when I moved to the southern region of America, I had always lived in the north and or in Europe.
Mhm.
I moved directly from Germany to Louisiana, and that was a shock. Um, but also it introduced me to a path of this whole spiritual avenue, and we all have a different avenues. This is just one that I took for a piece, and I took it very, very serious. I always had this spiritual, uh, not addiction, but obsession, curiosity. I always believed in like angels and or something else, like trying to figure out who made like how did we get here? Like everybody maybe thinks, I don't know if everybody, but um so when I was given a Bible at 13, it was like my first experience of reading within the pages of like these men and women who were doing these extraordinary things that I always like longed to do. I was super, super intrigued with like the Bionic Woman and, Wonder Woman, Superman. And I was like, always those things for Halloween. And I knew that there was something that I wasn't yet. I knew that there was more to our human potential. I knew there was something, like you mentioned, woo woo and out there that was like, we're just so close, but how do we get there kind of thing. And for me, that turn for me was like, okay, well, these people did it. Like, so we should be doing that. Like, whoa, where's the people doing this? And so I started looking, seeing like, well, there's got to be people. And there are people. There are mystics and people that are doing extraordinary things. And then I think the more we put our energy to that, where energy goes, energy flows. And we have this biofield that's 4 to 5 feet. Some people have 200 feet, 20 feet, whatever, it both radiates and magnetizes. So as I focused on the extraordinary, the supernatural, the miraculous, the paranormal, normal, um, I started attracting different people to me that were on those paths, and it just kind of grew from there. But yeah, I did conference speaking and writing within that religion. I started out Southern Baptist, believe it or not, and then I kind of graduated to more of a non-religious. They called it non. What do they call it? Non. No, I can't even think of the word right now, but it's basically still within the limits of church,
Okay.
but non-religious. And then I was gonna say nonprofit, but that's not it. But anyway, and then I just went to this. I guess there was a path of
Non-denominational.
non-denominational. You
Yeah.
got it. Thank you. And then I went to more of like a prophetic path. There was like a group of people who are really kind of in between non-denominational and spiritual, that they believed in like prophecy and the prophets and, different people having different gifts. Um, and then, yeah, I guess it just kind of evolved into wherever I am now, wherever that is.
I'm going to
Somewhere,
ask you in just a second to talk about the biofield since you just mentioned that. I
yeah.
love how you described that in your book. But can you just tell me, if you can off the top of your head, a couple of the writers that influenced you, to be where you are right now?
Oh, wow. Well, the Bible for sure. Although to be fair, I mostly look on my Strong's. I look up
Concordance.
the actual etymology of every single word and break it down. And if you do that, and when you do that, you'll see that most of what's translated within the Bible isn't exactly what it means at
That's
all.
that's one of the things I wanted to ask you, and so that's exactly, you keep hitting points that I had written down because you use biblical references or biblical passages throughout the book, especially towards the end. And I was going to ask you, because your interpretation is different than you might find in your traditional Christian church, Catholic church, uh, certainly Southern Baptist. So I was going to ask you where that is, that your own interpretation based upon your study?
It's for me, I choose to go to the root of anything, whether it's health, finances, partnership, scripture, um, yeah, source of code, God, creator, whatever made us. Um, these are all different tools to look into, the things scripturally. But when we look at the actual words, like I'll give you an example. There's one that says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. In my understanding of that time, it meant like we're not fighting amongst each other. We're fighting against these spiritual darknesses and, whatever, which is also true. But that word wrestle means vibrate. So we're vibrating at a certain frequency, and
Mhm.
either the things on this 3D plane and or 45D off planet things also have a vibration. Plants have a vibration. It's like, are we in alignment with that vibration, or is there another one? And so where are we in the vibration? And so that's one. There's another one that says, guard your heart, for it's the wellspring of life. And at the time, in my understanding and what was taught to me, I almost had like a visual picture of like, guard your heart. Anyone can get you at any time. Be careful. Don't let anyone hurt you, which puts you into a fight or flight within the body. And
Yeah.
also on this like belief system that something can get you at any moment. So if you stay in that belief system, that is an energetic code that's in the field of always feeling like you got to look over your shoulder and being scared and being on guard, literally on guard. Versus if you look at it from a metaphysics level, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life, means this is a magnet, and be careful what you're feeling, be on guard, be aware of what you are feeling, because you are drawing that in into creating a manifestation and bringing those things to yourself. So if you're thinking one thing and talking about that thing, but you have doubt or fear, then you're going to get a mismatch, which can put you in energetic purgatory, and you won't get ahead of like where you're actually trying to get in your destination on that God positioning system GPS, I call it, to get to whatever the destination is. Maybe you're choosing abundance or partnership or the perfect job that you've envisioned. But, if there's fear or doubt, which doubt is chronically phlegm in the body. When we doubt, we create phlegm scientifically, cancel clear. So yeah, those are just a couple. I mean, there's so many. The whole book is full of breaking down, and
Right.
detecting what true meaning is of things. And you know what? It could also be completely not true. And that's just where I am. I mean, I hold everything so loosely. It's like I get layers and layers and layers, and it's like it can mean something completely different 10 different ways, to be honest. So I stay open when people ask me, well, what do you think about this? It's like, well, right now I think this, but that could be something different tomorrow or 5 minutes from now.
You checked another box by saying energetic purgatory, because I'd written that phrase down also to ask you to explain that. But could you just go back to the biofield and explain how we attract positive or negative through our biofield?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great topic. We all have this field, this torrid field around us. Plants have it, animals have it. It's mentioned in scripture for those who require that. It's like our little spaceship, and we're just all like space beings in skin in our little earth suit with our little biofield that creates and repels and attracts, and then everyone else has theirs, and we all mix and we transfer, and then the earth has it and the animals have it. The earth's frequency is 7.83 or 7.86, if you remember, and then we have a frequency of 67 megahertz. Our field, in my diagnostics so far, the average field is around 4 to 5 feet. I have tested some people. I can do soil audits and we can find out how big your field is, but I have tested people up to 20 feet away. Horses are 350 feet in their field. They're so mystical. I mean, they are just sensitive beyond. Dolphins is unmeasurable. They are just light. They're just expanding, like probably take the whole ocean. So there's a lot of people using dolphins for like birthing and pain and clearing dis-ease in the body, pretty regular. And horses do the same thing. They use horses for therapy. But anyway, going back to your question, what is the language of the field? What is contained within the field? We have our thoughts that have thought forms, which create frequency. We have words, conscious language and or not conscious language, that all have every single word, every utterance, every sound has a verse or a sound or a frequency. And then the heart also, every feeling, every cell in our body has a projection, every organ has a projection, our blood has a projection, every belief system has a projection. We have ancestral DNA, mitochondria, that has its own equations that radiate. So everything radiates. And then there's also the aspect of the magnet. This is the biggest magnet of all of the things. Everything magnetizes a bit, and this is 500,000 times stronger than all the other things as far as
your heart.
In. What's that?
Your heart?
Yes, the heart.
Okay.
Yes. And so I actually worked in cardiac rehab for a bit for my internship for my undergraduate, and fascinating. At the time I was not in this sphere of understanding, but the surgeons would talk about the blue light that they would sometimes see, like a spark, like a charge, and this can create a charge. Fear, anger, joy, gratitude, enthusiasm, or entheos, being in God. And so we're always dispersing these equations, these colors, these formulas. And as we're dispersing, we're also magnetizing. So energetic purgatory can be like, again, if you're thinking something positive or maybe thinking something negative, but you're doing your best to like recognize remind
Mhm.
by speaking. We speak to hear ourselves if we do, when we do, and then that can change their mind and train the mind to go a different pattern. And then eventually, hopefully, entrain the heart to feel. Because I always tell people who say things like, I think, I think, I think, it's like, okay, stop thinking, drop down. What does your heart say? And usually they'll get that answer like, boom. It's like, they'll say, I don't know. And I'll say, well, if you did know, what would it be? And they'll say, I don't know. And usually that's a pattern of, I don't know, meaning they don't know, but also they don't have good boundaries. I don't know, have a hard time saying no. So we can track back that. But when we do know, and when we ask the heart, what does the heart say? Usually people will, I'll say first words, second words, and they just blurt out something, and it's like, oh, okay, well, when did that happen? What was that all about? And we kind of trace the root issue of what the programming is or how it came to be, and then we squash it, clear it. And when that, if fear is gone and it's replaced with self-love, gratitude, hope, peace, then that sends the nervous system into a expansion and or attraction, because calm and peace will attract. Fear tends to repel and or get more of. Resistance, whatever you
Mhm.
resist, you just keep getting that boomerang echo wave that keeps coming back for our gift, even though we look at it a lot of times we're told that it's a punishment, karma, but really it's a gift to make a new choice.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry, but you just about this field, just mentioned that certain people have fields of different, they extend further some than others. Is there any meaning to that? Like, are empaths the type that have larger fields, or
wow,
what's
that's a,
that mean?
so that is a great question. There is a measurement scale that I use for David Hawkins, who I don't agree with 100% everything that he puts out there. But for the sake of this conversation, I do love a lot of his information and what he has come up with or put out there. He has a scale of consciousness, and 0 or anything like 25 is death and below. And it's also manipulation, control, like all the negative things. And then you go up to like 100, and that's addictions. 250 is usually like the wake up. And then it jumps to 350 and so on. So love is 500. It can still go higher, higher, higher. It goes up. The highest is 1,000 on this specific scale, which Jesus is 1,000 for those who care. And also Mary Magdalene is 1,000, which that's interesting. No one taught me that in church. A matter of fact, a lot of other stuff was taught, but, and also, like Joan of Arc is up in the 700s, who she was burned at the stake for being a witch. Don't want to get political, but I'm going to say this: Robert Kennedy's 900. That's pretty good. So you can't always look at everything, but when what I've noticed is people who have a higher consciousness in measurement, their field is bigger. People who are lower on the scale, they test really tiny, which I think is a safeguard by whoever created us to, because again, this is all transferable. So would you want someone who's in control and manipulation to have a big amount of influence that they could spread to people? No, they can't even create their own field of consciousness. They have to usurp off other people to generate their own field, even an inch. And you could see that on some cameras will show like how plants will do it, and they'll like usurp from another plant to stay alive, and or people are doing it all the time. Like they're taking and or giving, sometimes on purpose, sometimes without knowing. But there is transfers going on. That's why it's uber important to know who you're hanging out with and to choose wisely who you're hanging out with. And I don't mean cancel culture. I'm against canceling people. If there is a way to cancel culture, but I'm more in the tribe of love everyone and forgive everyone, and still respect their position no matter what it is, and still maintain a friendship if there is some. But again, transferring is important. um but yeah, like Elkhart Tolle, I guess his name.
Eckhart Tolle, yeah.
He's like 20 feet. He's got a big field, meaning, and I have met people, and you probably have too, that you feel like as soon as someone walks in a room, you don't even have to know they walked in. You could have your back to them and you're like, oh wow, what just happened? And you look behind and this guy walks in. I have a few mentors, Bob Jones, David Stewart, and some others who literally are love on legs. Like they embody love to such a degree, and their numbers are reflective of that, and their field is reflective of that. And then you've also probably ran into people that you're like, eh, and you just feel like yucky. And to go back to the empath thing, we are all empaths, but yes, some people who are more aware can be more susceptible to feeling different energies. And also, I train people and remind people that just because we're an empath doesn't mean we have to take everything on. I look at it like we are all empaths, and when we are a blazing sun empath, that we don't take on other people's stuff. We just blaze through them, through it, versus being a sponge that just literally feels everything that's going on. And then we sometimes don't know if it's ours or someone else's, or we might think it's us. And then we think we're depressed and we're like, why do I feel depressed? And it's like, oh, this isn't mine. This is the collective. This is, the airplane crashes, or, the fires in California, or, whatever. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I don't want to get too far off topic because I do want to get to the meat of the science of miracles, but you have me fascinated with measuring consciousness. How does someone measure the consciousness of people like Jesus Christ, Mary Magdalene, Robert Kennedy, Eckhart Tolle? They're all dead. How do you measure their consciousness?
Well, I'm talking about Junior Robert Kennedy, to be clear. Sorry.
Bobby Kennedy.
I have never tested Senior. I bet you he's up there, though.
Okay.
But I use muscle testing, but I also have third-party muscle testing, and also have a third-party group that do it for pay when I've chosen to have people tested. Because if I'm going to hire someone or go into partnership with someone, I don't test them myself, because I don't want my will to be involved in the equation at all. Like, I don't want anything I want it clean. I choose for it to be clean. So I do have a group of people that test. Now, how do they test? They have not said how they test yet, but when I have tested what they've tested, I always get the same results. And they have someone that they pass it on to, and they do it blind study as well. And then there's another lady. I have 3 different sources who I'll just put it out there when I choose to hire someone or whatever. But yeah, but on the soul audits, I do measure with muscle testing, and I have a course on muscle testing on my class for those who want to learn how to do it themselves.
Okay. So can you talk about the science of miracles? You had a couple drawings and diagrams in your book, A minus A all the way to C, I guess it was, or R.
Yes.
But that's, I forget what page it was on.
Yeah, you're talking about the echo wave.
Yeah, I'm a left brainer, so I was attracted to your
I'm so left brain too.
your diagrams.
Good company. Yeah, the pictures. Oh my gosh, don't laugh at me, because I am not I don't I mean, I do like to draw, and also you see my stick people. I'm fantastic and gifted in the area of drawing. I'm trying to choose to know where that page is, but yeah, I was given that and an encounter with these 2 beings that I guess are angels and or off planet.
Oh, yeah, tell us about that. Well, yeah, that was fascinating. The light beings.
Oh, I found it. Here it is. So this is the co-creating formula that we all have, because it basically, this is where we are. We're trained to be here, so the energy of that stays. But anyway, there's a whole. It's easy simple when we use it, if we use it. But yes, I forget.
You still have your finger in the book? Because I was going to say
Oh,
what page that was on.
okay.
Most folks that listen to this will be listening to it by a podcast and not video, probably. So
Okay,
they
it
won't.
is on page 71.
Page 71.
Yeah,
Okay, but
chapter
tell us
12.
tell us a story about the light beings because that was fascinating.
Yeah, I was in a little of a pivotal time in my life, like not just with my health, but with relationships, with my career. Um, I was it was decided for me that it would be the end of my marriage at the time, which turned out not to be a marriage. That's another story. And
Sorry.
literally
What
locked
what
out of
what
my house.
what do you mean it was decided for you?
Meaning I didn't have a choice in the matter. I came home from a conference and
Okay. You don't mean divine. You mean by somebody else.
yeah, someone
Okay.
changed the locks on
Okay.
the door and it was like, okay, I guess
Okay.
this is what's happening. um, no judgment because it was the best thing in the world that ever happened because I'm so loyal. I probably would still be there and that wouldn't be my highest. I was getting a lot of nudges to make those choices, but I'm so loyal that I just wasn't making the choice, wasn't listening to my own heart. So it was, and I say it was decided for me. It could be my energy using them to do it for me because I wouldn't, because there is no them. We,
Okay.
you know, who are they? They are us outside, pushed out. So, what was I saying?
I was going to say that sounds like the Zero Limits book, but
Is it?
oh, exactly. You're 100% responsible for everything.
Oh,
But
yes, we are.
but
Everyone is just us pushed out, testing us all. We're always testing ourselves.
but you were about to talk about the light beings.
Yes, okay, thank you. So that was going on. My health was, in a opportunity and because of my former partnership was tied into my career, because of that religious path, they kind of frown upon women in ministry anyway, but a divorced woman is like no, no
Hmm.
can do, no bueno. So we lost our contracts to our television, and again, all good. It seemed like horrible, but I basically I would have been on the street if it wasn't for my parents, stayed with them a bit, and I was just in this seeking mode of just like, how do I do this now? Like, what's next? And just really crying out, lots of fasting, prayers, meditation, analyzing every bit of all the steps I had taken and just doing inventory of life and was seeking the supernatural, like wanted to be those mystics. Spent hours and hours and hours meditating and just resting and waiting and studying and was still like not really feeling like I was getting those answers. And I finally got into a rental house and one day I just came out of bedroom and walked into my living room, and there was these two ginormous, like 14-foot light things standing there. One looked very female, one looked like male-ish, and they were iridescent. They had like pastel type in and out kind of hologram. I don't know how to explain it.
How
If
are they
you watch
dressed?
Star Trek, what's that?
How are they dressed?
Uh, Honestly, they weren't, you couldn't see body parts, but it was just, they were just light. Like there was no clothing that I remember. They didn't have wings. Um, she had long hair. He actually looked Asian in descent, whatever that means. She
Mhm.
looked very like Statue of Liberty almost, like um very strong. If I could, you know, in all of my programming, she seems very like Scandinavian, big,
Mhm.
strong woman, but not in the sense of like I'm gonna attack you, very much. The vibe was terrifying, and also I thought I was dreaming. Um, I thought I was going crazy. I wasn't, I was very confused and there was a lot of emotions all at once. And there were books everywhere, all over, stacked, like these ancient books. Again, very in and out, like so fast in frequency. And also, I'll say the feeling of that experience I feel when I talk about it, and I feel it all the way in, just as if it's happening. And all I can say is just love, like felt like it was beaming through my body with my own mix of, you know, emotions on top of that. And so basically she came and sat down on this desk and she opens up this book and I'm curious. I came around, I start looking in the book to see what's going on, and it was line after line, record after record of all these people who had done great things, you know, were sick, how they got out of it, what the date was, what they, you know, all the things that happened for them to shift it. And it was just another one and another one. I mean, I was like overwhelmed. Really wanted to be a part of that. And I remember she just thought, like, her words did not move in her mouth, but I heard, "What do you want?" And I remember just thinking, I want to be a part of that. And she heard me. And then she looked over at the guy and she said, and then he said, you know, they didn't say words. And then she pointed at me and she said, "Tell them they're not truly living unless they're living true." And then she slammed the book. Everything disappeared. I was left standing there shaking like a leaf and really thinking I'm crazy. And I had to go sit down because I could barely stand. I grabbed a notebook and was getting all these downloads. And I kept thinking, you know, I've taught on dreams and visions. And I know, like, if you get a dream, you write it down, you write it down, you write it down, because it could go away. And you could, you know, in the middle of the night, you think, oh, I'll remember this. It's so important. And then you wake up and it's gone. So in my mind, I'm thinking I'm still in a dream, but I'm going to write it down. And then when I wake up, I'm going to write it down again. That way there's double enforcement and I will never forget this. And except for I never woke up. I just, unless this is a dream right now, we're still, and we might be in a dream now. Who knows? But I wrote everything down, the formulas, the way the technology works with what we are and who we are. And I put it all in this, which, you know, that came after me sharing it in conferences and people saying, "Why don't you put this in a book?" And so one day I just did.
Can I ask you just two questions about that experience? Three questions. Why is it doing that?
I don't know. Happy birthday! Celebrate!
I don't know what caused that. Three questions. The first question is, you were obviously within their biofield. So what did you sense? Was it love you said you sensed?
I felt so much love that I felt like it was squeezing me in and out. I was overflowing. My cup was full to the point, I call them love leaks. Like, when I get that feeling, it literally can come out no other way except through tears. And I just felt pressed, but also just overflowed with every cell in my body.
The reason I'm asking you that is because you also used the word fear. So, but you're making it clear that the overwhelming sense was love, not fear.
Fear is an understatement. Terrified because I had never seen anything like that. I was not sure what was happening. It was very confusing. And since then, I have been obsessed with anyone who's had anything like this before and any encounters. And it's interesting, even in the Bible, all of them will respond, "Do not fear, do not be afraid." That's the first thing they say. And it's like, oh, no wonder, because it's scary.
So and the second question is, when you were looking over her shoulder and you said you wanted to be a part of that, what was that?
Healing, helping people remember how to heal their body and how to be one with God.
So that book or whatever she was showing you, was that a list of other people who had.
Oh, people I don't know, or maybe I do. I mean, the books were stacked all around the whole room, around the desk,
Mhm.
behind me, in front of me, and then this one was just record after record after record, healed, 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 healed of all the things.
Okay. I can't remember what the third thing was I was going to ask you, but that's plenty. So, can you? We've already gone further than I thought we were going to go, but I think it's important for people to understand how you describe the science of miracles because I at least tied it into what I've learned about manifesting and getting to where you want to be, which is the far right of that diagram that you drew. What was it? R, the far right, the letter, or C
B,
plus,
C plus and beyond.
C plus and beyond. Okay. I'm not sure the letters are important for our listeners, but basically what Dr. Chanel is talking about is trying to get to a place in the future where you want to be. So can you just explain that concept?
Yeah, so part of the program on this 3D culturally accepted, at least what I was taught, my path so far until then was, even from elementary school, is to set goals. And so let's say you want to be a cheerleader. The goal is to be a cheerleader. The goal is to get straight A's. The goal is to get the job, to whatever. So if your energy is to get the thing, then you stay in the energy of getting the thing but not having the thing. And so there is a mismatch there because how do you get something that you're trying to get? Like if you're sitting in a chair and I tell you stand up and you stand up, then you're not trying. You've stood up. But if you're trying and I ask you to try, then what do? You just sit there thinking about it. Like that's the purgatory part, right?
Mm.
And that goes back to Star Wars, which I love. There is no try, Yoda would say, try or
There's
not
either
try.
do or do not, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we go beyond the B, so B is the goal. If we're in A, which is where we presently are, and all of our energy is to get to B, which is where most of us are taught, like do all the things to get to B, and you stay in that mindset of I just got it. If I could only get to B, let's get to B, let's get that job, let's get that partner, let's get that weight loss, whatever. Then we stay in the energy of the in between. But if we imagine and use imagery, the word imagine is to, imagination, imagination. If we use the technology of visualization to, I am already there, I've landed, I open my eyes, what am I seeing now that I'm already there? What's new and different for you? Meaning, what are you doing now that you're 30 pounds lighter? Well, I'm walking around freely. I'm in a size 6. Or 8 or 10 or whatever. I play tennis with ease. I feel ease in my body. I sleep well. All the things. And if it's partnership, same thing. If it's your job, what are you seeing now that you're in that job that you choose? That's, whatever you're choosing to manifest. I'm collabing with other people. I am creating new opportunities. I am signing more book deals. I am buying investments. What does that look like specifically with specificity and like write down the feelings? Like I feel excited that I'm traveling. I'm traveling to Hawaii. I'm going to Norway. I'm bringing my kids. Who's there? What are people saying to you? And you go into the energy of not just be and looking out, but what happens then? C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z and beyond. Like, and just trailblaze all the way there. Your limbic system and your subconscious cannot tell the difference between your imagery, and or what's real. And so what happens is because the subconscious is literal, when you play or pretend in a literal sense as if it already happened, and you use all your feelings and your senses to literally put those things down to paper and or keep them in the mind, talk about them, maybe not talk about them with everyone because someone could actually pull from the equation. But for those who agree with you to keep the momentum of that picture and imagery when we are there already and we're seeing and experiencing that that chemical response in our body, because it can't tell the difference between fake and real or pretending, tend to as if it happened, pretend, then that your body thinks it happened and your chemistry thinks it happened and your nervous system calms down. And when we calm down, that puts an expansion and a pull. But when we're in fight or flight, there's a negative and there's a shrinkage and there's no expansion. So when we stay in that beautiful, it already happened and now it's all these things, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, subconscious can't tell the difference. Your body literally thinks it's already happening. You're pretending as if it's happened. And guess what? The radiation of the feeling, what does it do? Magnetizes. And guess what? You get a knock at the door and someone's there to send you the exact amount of your car note that month, or pay off your house, or you get the call of someone, estranged that hasn't spoken to you in 12 years, or, there's money that's in the bank all of a sudden that literally has no reason to be there. That I've had people say, there must be an error, and they go to the bank, they're like, nope, it's $10,450. And I'm like, well, but it used to be $300. How did it get there? Or followers on your subscribers, or you fill in the blank. We can practice this. We can bilocate. We can call things back that are lost and bring them back to us. Again, I was going to say the sky's the limit, but that's not true. We're beyond the sky's the limit. There are no limits. We are eternal. We're immortal. We're healthy. We're divine. And we have this technology that God, creator, source, has given us to do all these things in the image of source.
Can I just reflect a couple things? One is when you're thinking about this and convincing your limbic system that you are there, or that you are in that CBE, whatever.
You're here.
You're here. Thank you.
Because there is still not there, right?
But it's imaginary. You're not going out spending wild money pretending that you're rich, or you're not going out buying cars you can't afford, that kind of stuff.
I don't encourage that.
Okay.
No, although there have been people who will do things that they're told in their inner to do something like that, as an anchor. Like I'll find something. Like one time I was told to go get a watch that was absolutely ridiculously priced, and I was like, man, I don't even use watches. Like why? But I did, and it opened the door for something. So I would just listen to what the inner is telling you to do.
I have heard of stories like that where, for example, someone wants to go to a conference and they couldn't afford it, and they were told simply to make the reservations and things would happen, and it did, or at least buy the tickets or whatever, and things will happen. So I do believe in that.
Have you ever read Reese Howells' Intercessor?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Intercessor?
Reese Howells' Intercessor. He talks about this all the time. Like he goes and he bought the train ticket. He just went to the train station. He had I think cents in his pocket, and he kept being told go to the train station because he was supposed to go somewhere. And literally he got there and someone bought an extra ticket and was like, "Oh, this is for you." But I do mapping with people online, and we create maps and create these equations for people to receive. They're called outcome mapping, but I also call them income mapping, because whatever your outcome is going to be your income. And we just did one Sunday actually as a group, and I've had people who are like, okay, I learned how to do this from your workshop, and I'll say, report your miracles to me. And this lady had said, oh, I just want to let you know it worked. This lady knocked on my door and handed me a check and said, I don't know why I'm over here, but I'm supposed to give you this money. And it was the exact amount of her car note. And she was thrilled. She was just like, oh my gosh. And I said, what was your map? And she said, I mapped to have my car note paid this month. And I said, why didn't you just map to have your car note paid off? Like, what? It takes the same amount of energy to believe and create your whole thing paid off than just 1 month, and then she was like, oh man, you're right. So I was happy for her. And I think that was a taste for her to just like tippy toe into what's available. But also I've had people who wanted a car and they were very specific about the color of the car, the kind of car, the brand of car, like all that stuff. And then their kid came home that day with a matchbox and said, "Mom, I want to give this to you." And it's like, there you go, you got your car. It's like, be more specific. What do the seats look like? How do they feel when you sit in them? Like, what's the transmission? Like that. Let's be real uber specific on this.
You just checked another box because that was another thing I wanted to ask you was in your book, you invite people to contact you with stories of miracles. And so that's obviously some of those that you're sharing. Can you share, though, the story that you have in the book about finding things?
Yes.
There's two stories you tell there. Whichever one you pick is fine, but I found that fascinating too.
Yeah, I had some wrist weights that I wear when I work out or just when I don't, like when I choose to remember them. And I was going out of town and I was choosing to have them with me in the suitcase and or wear them on the plane underneath my shirt, not to be like a weird, but they're not that huge, but every little bit counts when you're having an outcome that you choose. And so I could not find them. I was just like, what? And so when I choose to find something, instead of saying, I can't find it, which just, concretes the not finding ever those things, I flip it and use my creative technology and I say, I'm God's mind knowing where my stuff is. I'm God's eyes seeing my whatever now. I am God's hands holding my weights now. And I did all of that. And then I saw them in my mind on this shelf next to a weigh-in area of the gym that I work out at. And I remember all of a sudden taking them off to get an accurate measurement of my weight so I wouldn't have that extra weight and
Sure.
appear fatter. and I left them there. So I called the gym and I was like, hey, I left my weights there. And they said, yeah, we already found them, Dr. Sharnael. We put them in the lost and found. You can come get them tonight. And I looked at the clock and it was going to be closed. So I wouldn't be able to get them in time by the time I drove there. And I said, what time do you guys open? And I was going to have to get up really early for a flight and they weren't going to be open before I could get there. So I was a little bit bummed. And also, when I got in my bed, I started going, you know what? I can play with this. Let's create something fun here. And I was like, I am so excited that I already have my weights with me, my wrist weights specifically, and that I have them for my trip tomorrow. And I just went to bed with that in the consciousness of already imagining what it would be like. I'm at the hotel, on my downtime in between conferences, I'm working out, I have them on. What does it feel like? I feel discipline and fun, and it's adding extra, played with all of that. So I get up in the morning, got everything together, get out the door. When I got in my car, I remembered my phone was still on the bed. I didn't forget it, but I was like, oh, I remember my phone. I got to go back. Go back. And when I did go back to my room, grab my phone, I look on the bed and the two wrist weights were just sitting there crisscrossed, like literally right below my pillow, as if they had always been there. Now, they weren't. I never fix my bed, which I'm getting better at because there is a lot of science to that. But I did not fix them. I don't remember fixing my bed. Maybe I did, but they were sitting on top of like the big cover of my bed. And I was just like, oh, thank you. So when the gym could be open, I called them and I said, hey, out of curiosity, like, are my weights still there? Just seeing what was really happening. And they were like, hold on 1 second, we'll go check. And they came back and said, we don't see them. I hope no one stole them. I'm so sorry. They were literally just there last night. Maybe someone took them home because they knew they were yours and they didn't I'll talk to the director. But anyway, no one ever found them because I created them back on my bed. Now, fast forward, my daughter had a similar situation. We were at a conference. She had this wallet. She was selling chocolates. She got a brand new wallet. She showed everybody, oh my God, it was her first wallet she ever had. Oh, look at my wallet. Oh my God, I'm so rich. She was selling all these chocolates. One guy came and bought all the chocolate for her school. gave her $40. She thought she was the richest person in the entire universe, and she showed everyone, oh my God, I have a new wallet, now I have $40, I'm so rich. She was just so happy. And then at the end, when we were packing up to leave, she was in the corner crying and frantic, and I was like, what's going on? And she's like, I can't find my wallet, cancel clear, my money's gone, I worked so hard, just really upset. I said, hey, so we all look around, there's 40 of us looking everywhere for these, we're packing up chairs, it's the last day of the conference. I talked to the owner of the place we were renting from, and I was like, it's midnight 20 now, we're exhausted, we're just like, honey, we got to go home. I told the guy, look, can you look really hard when they clean and do whatever they're doing, and just call me. Gave him my number. We got to find this wallet. And we got in the parking lot. She was crying, and I just wanted to make her feel bad. I was like, hey, remember mom and her wrist wallet? Remember that? Like, we're probably going to get home, and it's going to be on my bed. Like, just put your energy towards, you already found it. It's fine. You got this. And you could do the same thing mom does. We all have the same technology. And so she was maybe third grade, second or third grade. So all 40 of us go back to my house because we're going to debrief about the conference and just have a bite to eat and chill out. We get back. I don't even know what's going on. I just kind of said that so she would just not cry, because I just did not want her to be crying. I can't even say that I actually believed it to be. I just was just like trying to make her feel better. And we go home. She takes me super serious. She makes a beeline. I'm in my office. We're all gathered. We're unpacking. We're getting things out of the car, and she goes straight to my room, like it's expecting it to be on my bed. It wasn't. So she came back, and she's kind of walking around. Next thing you know, she comes in holding up her wallet and the $40. And I was like, what the heck? And she's like, it wasn't on your bed, but it was on my bed.
That's amazing.
And we hadn't been home. Like, there's zero possibilities. Like, we had been at this conference all day since 7 o'clock that morning. There was no opportunity, and we had 40 witnesses of everybody seeing that wallet. We had not been home. There's literally no way.
So just to drive this point home.
There is a way. There's a way. There's lots of ways, because opportunities are in the air. Miracles are literally in the air. It's about embodying them into our field of creation at any time.
Would you call that manifestation, or what do you call that?
Yes, and or also one of the scriptures that says, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all for the glory of God. And that word glory actually is, I think, Dorca, which is kind of interesting, but it means the manifestation. So whether you eat, drink, think, talk, ride your bike, work out, do all for the manifestation of God. That's literally why we're here. Is we are creating constantly, either on purpose with consciousness or by default, whatever's in the subconscious is creating all the time. So it's being aware of being aware of being aware of what's in the subconscious. So we are creating something really positive and beautiful, or accidentally creating things that aren't serving us. And as you have read the book, there's a saying that people say, go big or go home. And I say, stay home and go big.
Thank you. And I remember the last thing I wanted to ask you about those light beings. Can you repeat that phrase again? Because I think that's important.
Yeah, that's been my life mission now. And from that moment, and she said, tell them they're not truly living unless they're living true. And what that means to me is everything. It's not just a little white lie or, a fib. It's the embodiment of living true, which is the name of my practice, Living True Wellness. And it has become my entire purpose, is helping people remember how to live true, meaning who you are partnered with, where you live, what location, what city, state, house, what grocery store you go to, what post office you use, how do you set your time? And that could be different every single day, or the exact same thing, or your purpose and your mission in embodying your truth could be completely different from mine, and it should be. Although there can be some overlap. But, I could have my whole day of doing, 6 interviews today in a row. And then maybe I'm going to go work out, but maybe I'm told, don't go to this gym, go over here and just be a guest at this gym. And when we listen, there's usually a reason of like, you're going to meet this person or this thing's going to happen, or, it's a connection when we listen to that GPS of just living true by the guidance that's been given to us within the GPS. And there are not consequences. There are results either way. It's positive and or negative. And if it's a negative, it's not really a punishment or a negative, but it'll send back a signal to come into your echo wave to give you the gift of choosing again and making a new choice.
We could probably talk for hours, and I know you don't have hours, but you have me fascinated by a lot of things that you're talking about. Can you just explain, and maybe we'll end with this, the concept of I am, because you mentioned that a lot in your book, and we haven't talked much about what God means to you right now, or the I am means to you right now, but what is that for you right now?
I am is everything in me. And also, I've been just 2 interviews ago, a lady was bringing up the aromatic version, which I think I just probably still have it in my notes if I could find it. But so that could change. But the I am in aromatic is Ainana, which is actually little self introduced to higher self. And or, we see it as a separation, but it isn't. It's all one. We are one. And when we are one, and we remember our oneness with divine health, with abundance, with love, with truth, with peace, with all the things that I am is, and we are present with that, then we're not anything. We're not in that codependent dance of needing something external, because we're going direct, and we are direct with God within us, the kingdom. Like, this is my kingdom, and this is my kingdom. And as I remember my kingdom within, and my I am already love, already truth, already divine health, and we use our imagination to be in that already place, then again, the body responds and says, okay. And then when we're not, we also have that response where the subconscious goes, okay, and starts making headway for those things. So I choose to know if that answers your question.
It does. Well, partially because because what I was thinking of is, and you come from a religious background, which is biblically based or Christianity based. And when I talk about some of the concepts as part of this podcast or speaking to other people, the biggest pushback that I get has to do with it coming from, that Satan is involved in, what I'm experiencing or what I'm believing is coming from Satan and not from God. And the whole thing about the final judgment and then dying and going to hell and all of that, which I no longer accept, honestly. But what is your thought about that?
So in my older path or previous path, similar programs, and spiritual warfare, for example, it's like we were taught to fight darkness, right? It's like, how do you fight darkness? You could go in with an Uzi and shoot up whatever and do, but wherever attention goes, it just gets bigger, and whatever you resist, you get more of. So for me, I just walk in and turn the lights on. It's a lot simpler and easier than shooting anything or shouting at anything or, you know, trying to resist or depress or oppress. That involves this whole codependent dance of, you know, thinking that something can get us. Like even I am secure, that saying, I am secure. When I say that, I feel it on the inside versus I am protected. That to me seems very outside, like something can get me at any time. Like protected infers from protected from what? That so then we're in this I don't know, negative of, you know, coming in and bringing in the field and feeling on guard versus I am secure is a more like radiant sun blazing push out of I just blaze, I ignite Christ in everyone I contact. How about that? You know, how about God is the only power presence acting here, or I am the ascended Jesus Christ, permanent light, love, and victory already attained in my marriage, in my love, in my health, in my, you know, those things are very outside pushing my radiance out versus feeling this fear of something going to get me. And here's an example of the scripture that says, guard the heart, for it's the wellspring of life. I was taught in that program that we had to be on guard again, that protection and like guard your heart. Someone could hurt you, guard your heart. Like I even had a mental picture of like this shield of, oh my gosh, please don't touch me, hurt me, get me. And when we stay in that, we literally like a key open the door for more to come because that's the vibe that we're at. That frequency is so low. Entities come in at 25. And so if we are at the frequency of that entity, they get keys to the house. And when we remember that the actual meaning of guard your heart, for it's the wellspring of life, that is just a metaphysical awareness of be aware of what your heart is putting out as a signal because you are going to get a match. And so am I.
That's perfect.
So if we're aware of what we're feeling, then we can make a choice to feel what we choose to feel, which is going to get a match of positivity instead of the whole. Yeah. So that's what I mean is there is no them. And I'm not saying there aren't lower frequencies because there are entities and there are, you know, things that don't serve us very well. But we also have this other group of amazing angelic support at our beck and call to the point that my 3-year-old was seeing them and she said that they would always, you know, she was terrified when she saw them first. And to the point where my former called me from the grocery store and was like, oh my God, we can't even grocery shop. She's seeing them everywhere. She's talking about the Birdmen. You know, she's frantic. She's panicked. He brought her home. I sat her down. I was like, are you okay? And, you know, I said, what did they say? And she said, they kept saying, Shane, Shane, be my guide. So I asked, what's that? Her name is Shane. Okay. Yes. And they were telling her as a 3-year-old, be my guide. So if you look biblically, which again, however, it talks about the angels of the air there to bid our every word. I mean, so we have support when we choose and if we remember. And also, I'm not a fan of the codependent stance of seeking something on the outside when we already have direct TV right here.
Yeah. I'll close here pretty quick, but I have come across people with what I do that have experienced negative energies. And so they'll ask me, because I see things that I think are from the light and that I appreciate and love. And other people say, well, don't you see this? Don't you experience this? And noises or sounds or things that people see. And I said, I've never used the phrase that you use in your book. I'm just not at that frequency. I don't look for it.
It's like a channel on the radio. It's like, no, I don't listen to AM, dude. I'm not on that channel.
Exactly. That's kind of how you explain in the book, which I thought was awesome. I'm not open to that frequency. I try not to be. And
some people, that is their entire life, you know, and it was mine. I was really having a lot of not so great things going on in every area because you cannot pee in the pool and hope it doesn't get everywhere. Like there is not a segment. It's if it's abundance, it's going to affect partnership. If it's career, it's going to affect partnership and abundance. Like it's all one. And when we fix and clear within, it affects everything around us and our kids and every partner we've ever slept with.
Oh, all right. I think I'm going to end it there, Dr. Sharnael.
Yes, let's end it on sex. No, I'm just kidding.
It's amazing. Thank you. I appreciate your time. And is there? I know you've written more than one book, right? So what else should I read?
What else should you read?
Your book.
Keys to Third Heaven, I think is a fun one. That was my first one that really saw the pictures of how we create in ways.
Can you say the title again?
Keys to Third Heaven.
Key to Third Heaven?
Keys to Third Heaven, using
Okay.
Third Heaven revelations to impact your world. I have a Seer's Handbook that just talks about the gifting of what seers are. It's a very tiny book. It's just a little bit of a manual I threw together for some people that needed it for a class.
Okay.
Um, but yeah,
Awesome. Thank you
yeah,
so much. I'm going to close our recording. If Can you just stay on for just real quick, just for a couple admin things?
yeah. I'm going to
Okay.
say one thing too. You guys, if you're interested in working with me in any way, please go to drsharnel.com. You're going to find my workshops. I do a lot of coaching. 30-minute segments can do a lot because I can find the signals that you're putting out, and maybe we can reframe them and shift them for you so you have a different outcome and income. I do mapping with people. I have biofeedback. We do soul audits so I can measure what's going on. There's a lot of classes on there. And actually, if you go to my website right now, we just put up a free class for anyone who goes to the website. If you put in your newsletter, you will get a free class on how to clear some of these lower energies out because I think this is super important right now on the planet to be able to have your own access to clear. There's also some information on there free. If you go to the Ozone at Home, they'll give you a lot of free classes on that and information on what ozone is. But yeah, I hope that this will ignite a lot of opportunities in all of you who've listened today because I spoke on purpose with clarity to ignite anyone and everyone who listens to this. So share it also. And thank you for what you're doing on your platform because in the atmosphere of where we are in this time and season, platforms like you are very, very and just uber important to bring more wave to the positive. Like I mentioned earlier in this podcast, I appreciate and honor you and your service.
Thank you, Dr. Sharnael. Would you be kind enough to just spell the URL so the people that
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Sharnael, Sharnael. It sounds like Sharnael, but it's Sharnael, like Israel at the end, and .com,
Perfect.
drsharnael.com.
Okay. I'll put those links too in the show notes. Thank you again. I really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Bye bye.